would just like to say, first of all, that I am honored and absolutely humbled that I have been invited to speak with you all this evening. Crittenton services made such a major impact in my life. I can't tell you where I would be today. From my most recent memories of my earliest childhood, I remember sitting on the edge of my bed saying that nobody loves me and nobody cares. In the years to follow, I would endure sexual abuse on a daily basis, accompanied with physical and mental abuse. My mother left when I was 4 years old, and my father soon remarried, and I had a stepmom that gave me a little bit of love and gave me a little bit of care, but when her child was born, that all left as well. At the age of 13, I continued to feel this overwhelming sensation that nobody loved me and nobody cared, so I decided to kill myself. I couldn't get my hand on a gun, but I did take as many pills as I could possibly find in the home that day. Some friends of the family found out about my suicide attempt. It obviously didn't work, and offered to allow me to live with them for a little while. Over the next 10 months, they poured their love and their care over me, and I thought, this is going to be good. I'm going to have a good life. That was cut short rather abruptly when my family basically said, you can't live with them anymore. I didn't ask any questions. I just said, okay. And I was given the choice to either go back to my home or to move to West Virginia with my biological mother. And when you don't know someone, you just feel like the grass is always greener on the other side. So I went to West Virginia. I went from living in a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house to a 1-bedroom, roach-infested apartment with my mother and her boyfriend. There were drug dealers and pimps that came in and out of that house, and you can only imagine what was going on with me during that time. The necessities like feminine napkins were not made accessible to me. So I then began dating older men in their 30s, and they'd throw me $10 or $20 from here and there. I moved out when I was 16 and soon found myself pregnant about 3 months later. I knew there was only 2 choices for me. I was either going to abort or I was going to raise my baby. I remember going down to the waterfront in Wheeling, and I just cried out to God, and I said, you know what? I have 2 choices. I don't really think you want me to abort, but that's kind of what I'm leaning toward, and you've got to make a way for me to keep this baby if it's meant to be. So that was a weekend, and I went to school that Monday, and my piano teacher asked me, we've noticed a change. What's going on? I said, well, I'm pregnant. I don't have anywhere to go. But I heard about this place called Florence Crittenton, and I don't really know what it's about. And she said, they do outreach here at the high school. And she said, let me go and see when they'll be here next. And it just so happened that they would be there that day. The social worker there began helping me. There were some issues with my custody, and so the state had to work through those issues, and I was put in a temporary group home until they were able to work through that. And I remember leaving the group home for the Christmas vacation and coming back, and the director saying, you know what, there's a bed available, you're going to Florence Crittenton. The night that I arrived there, it was Christmas vacation, very little of the girls were there, and I remember just crying uncontrollably. A staff member, her name was Mary, she came into the room and she said, it's gonna be all right, and she just held me and rocked me for hours on end. And for the first time since I had left my foster parents, I knew that someone was caring about me. In the coming months, they began working with me, teaching me life skills, teaching me to have respect for myself, teaching me about drug and alcohol abuse and what it does to your body, to your emotions when you have sex with someone. It's not just an act, it was something a whole lot deeper, and that was why, you go through those particular changes. After my daughter was born, I began in therapy. Kathy Zaffron was my therapist. And throughout all of my life, I never blamed anyone or blamed anything. I just wanted to know why. Why was I abused? Why did these people do these things? What was really going on? And she helped me find out why. She answered many questions that I needed to know in order to survive. During that time period, I also learned the value of hard work. At that time period, the government was giving $201 a month to single mothers. And in my neighborhood, that was the life. To be on Section 8 and get food stamps and 201, hey, that was the life. But I learned there that I could work a minimum wage job and bring home more than 201 a week. I left after being in their treatment for 18 months, and I lived in the Wheeling, West Virginia area for about 3 years. If any of you know what East Wheeling is like, it's very crime-ridden. There's a lot of prostitution, a lot of drug usage, so I made the decision to move to Utah. And I remember I was going through a really hard time in Utah, and I picked up the phone almost 4 years later, and I called Kathy, and I said, "What is going on? Can you please explain this to me?" And once again, she explained it to me. I stand before you today, a successful woman. I work for a financial company for health clubs. I'm a senior client management representative, which means my clients bill over $1 million through my company yearly. I enrolled in college 3 years ago, and I am at the end of my sophomore year with a grade point average of 3.45. My expected date of graduation will be December of 2009, and it just amazes me that here I am, a broken individual, and I have these multi-million-dollar clients that come to me and say, "Can you please answer this question for me?" My little girl is 14 years old. She's gone to the Math Science Olympiad on 3 different occasions, and she's placed in 3 different times. She's 14 years old, and she's the most intelligent child that I know. We are involved heavily with the Northern Utah AIDS Coalition at this time period. And I'm not a mother that preaches abstinence, and I don't tell her what and what not to do, but I expose her to everything that I possibly can. When her 14-year-old friend became pregnant, many of the parents would not allow their children to play with her, but my daughter was the first one over there. I want her to see what it's like to raise a child and not really have anywhere to go. I allow her to become heavily involved with the activities in the AIDS Coalition because I want her to know if you make decisions, there's something so much worse than just becoming pregnant. And she told me, Mama, I'm going to wait till I'm married to have a baby because I don't want to be alone and I don't want to have AIDS. She's an aspiring dancer. She's only had 3 years of training, and she's been invited to join the professional hip-hop team next year. I'm extremely proud. I know that God answers prayers, and many people will think that God will just send an angel out of heaven, but it really doesn't work that way. It has to be people like you that will heed the call, that will make that phone call, that will get in someone's business and make a change. My name is Charese Jameson, and I stand before you today, and I know that somebody loves me and somebody cares.